guys, Constance here. Welcome back to A Good Life Farm. So I just got done running a quick errand. I went up to one of our area ALDI'S and picked up some groceries. I really like going to ALDI'S. I don't go there very often because we don't have one exactly in our town. But it is definitely worth the drive to head up there to pick up things, especially the meats right now. Their meat prices are really good, and they have a lot of organic foods. You can find all sorts of things. I mean, they're not huge stores, but they do have a pretty good variety of things, and generally at a pretty good price. So I'm going to share with you what I picked up today. So just as an example of some of these good prices, they have 100% grass-fed organic ground beef. It was $5 and change a pound, and right now organic ground beef is going up. They also have bison there and a lot of other things. Alright, so first of all, I picked up a few packs of their refrigerated raviolis. These freeze really well, so you can just toss them in the freezer, pull them out, cook them up really quick for a fast meal. I got some of the cheese ones as well as some of the spinach and mozzarella ones. And this particular brand, well actually this one as well, what I like about these is they say right on here, no RBST cheese. RSBT is a hormone that a lot of dairy cows are given to artificially cause them to create more milk. And this is just, dairy that does not use this hormone is always going to be better for you than if it does use that hormone. So I got 3 different kinds. I've got some butternut squash, the 5 cheese, and then the spinach mozzarella. I picked up a bag of salad because I do enjoy eating salads. Grabbed a big old head of cabbage. I'm actually going to do a super easy 1 skillet supper tonight, and I'm going to use that cabbage as well as some of the ground beef. It's just a really easy dish that a friend of mine made when I was over there, and it's kind of similar to something else that I make, but I loved the simplicity of it, and personally I love cabbage. Hated it as a kid, but man do I love cabbage nowadays. Alright, I picked up a pack of this 4 cheese risotto. This is a new one to me. I've never gotten this, but so I just picked up 1 pack to give it a try. I thought this might make for a nice quick side for a dish. I picked up a pack of some Italian sausage. This one's actually made from chicken. Mr. Smith has a lot of heartburn issues with greasy foods, and Italian sausage really does a number on him, and so I thought we would give this one a try just to see how it goes for him. I picked up a round roast because I've actually been kind of craving some sauerbraten, and I would need one of these to make that. About a week or so ago, or 2 weeks ago, I did a video for ropa vieja, which is just this amazing slow cooker recipe. And in it I talked about how normally you would make it with skirt steak, but sometimes it's hard to find skirt steaks. I haven't seen any skirt steaks in my town recently. However, I did find one at ALDI'S. This is Black Angus, it's a skirt steak, and this was $8 a pound, which is good for a skirt steak. They can run a little high, especially if it's Angus beef. So $12 for a skirt steak is actually a good price, because I've seen these running closer to $20 nowadays. I also picked up some cube steaks. I have a number of different cube steak recipes that I enjoy cooking. Like I mentioned, I picked up some ground beef. I also picked up a few organic chickens. I will go ahead and toss these in the freezer for now but I am going to be making another big batch of my chicken broth or bone stock, one or the other. I'm almost out, and so I wanted to pick up a few chickens so that I could start working on those here in the very near future. I also picked up a few packages of dried fruits. I got some cranberries, some blueberries, and then some mixed berries. This one is dried cranberries, cherries, and blueberries all together. These are really great for snacking on, but you can also put them in baked goods, you know, like your like muffins or pancakes or waffles or anything like that. I picked up a package of just some sea salt crackers. Mr. Smith and I have been on a little bit of a hummus kick lately, and so I picked up some crackers for that. And speaking of hummus, I picked up this olive tapenade hummus, and this one's a new one to me. I do love olive things, and I do love hummus, so we will give this one a try. So I picked up 2 salad dressings. I picked up some avocado ranch, which I love avocado ranch. And then I saw this apple thyme vinaigrette dressing. I thought it sounded kind of interesting. I've no idea how this will taste. It might be awful, but it might be amazing. It has cold pressed apple juice, thyme, honey, and all sorts of other good things in there. So sounded pretty interesting, so we'll see how it tastes. I picked up a package of cranberries because I absolutely love cranberry sauce on Thanksgiving, and really I love cranberries for all sorts of different things. The flavor of cranberries, I don't just eat them on Thanksgiving, but Thanksgiving is coming, and I mentioned in a video recently that, you know, grocery prices are going crazy. There's shortages, and I recommended buying all of the things that you needed for Thanksgiving as early as you possibly can, especially if it's not something that you have to buy at the last minute. But anything that you can buy in advance, I really recommend doing that. Cranberries freeze very well, and so I can either go ahead and toss these in the freezer now, or I can go ahead and make my cranberry sauce, because that keeps a good long time in the refrigerator. I also picked up just a few cans of some organic kidney beans because I'm running low on my already prepared beans. And then I picked up just a few cartons of beef broth because I just ran out of all of my homemade, home-canned beef broth. Now, I actually already bought all of the things that I needed to make another batch of beef broth to can. So that's another thing I'm going to be doing here pretty soon. So I just kind of picked up those cartons of beef broth just to tide me over until I could do that. So there is my little ALDI'S grocery haul. Oh, and these chickens, you know, chicken, just like other things, other kinds of meat, the prices are going through the roof. These organic free-range chickens were $2.49 a pound. They are sometimes even lower than that, but $2.49 a pound is a lot better price than the $4 and $5 and $6 that I've been seeing in other stores. So if you don't shop at ALDI'S and you have one in your area, I highly recommend going for a visit and seeing what kind of deals you can find. Alright, let me get these groceries put away. Alright, so I thought I would bring you out here into the greenhouse. Brewed myself a mug of coffee. We have got a weather system that has rolled in. I think it arrived about 5:30 this morning. You could kind of just hear the wind picking up, and the sky just opened up and it just poured for a good little bit. And now it's been gusty all day and overcast, and you can probably hear my big wind chime out there. I have this really big, deep musical chime that hangs right over there on a fence post, which is right outside my bedroom window so I can hear it at night when I'm in bed. So as you saw, I just went to Aldi's and kind of stocked up on a few things that I was kind of needing to get, and that reminded me, not too long ago, pretty recently, I talked in a video about things that I was seeing on the news, things that I was seeing being discussed by economists and experts out there who kind of are in the know about things. And there was a lot of talk about coming food shortages, shortages in the supply chain, breakdowns of the supply chain, and all sorts of things. And I talked about how some of those experts were saying that if you were planning on having a Thanksgiving dinner, that you should start buying everything that you needed as soon as you could, because there were just so many shortages that were going to be expected. And I know most people, you know, remember what happened last year with nobody being able to find things that they needed. You know, you couldn't hardly find paper products anywhere. There was just shortages of stuff all over the place. And from what I understand, the people who are issuing the warnings are saying it could be very much like that, or maybe even worse. And I mentioned how there were some things going on within our own household that would probably mean that we would need to be tightening up the belt and doing things a little bit frugally. I was grateful that I already had my greenhouse and all of that for future use. And I mentioned again the importance of having a stocked pantry. I have talked about that here and again for quite some time. That is just something that I feel is personally important. You know, we used to live up in Fairbanks, Alaska, and when winter rolled around, if the trucks couldn't get in, if there were blizzards and the roads were full of snow and the trucks couldn't move, you just couldn't get stuff. I mean, Fairbanks, Alaska is in the middle of nowhere. And if the trucks and the trains and all of them can't get through, well, you've got to be able to rely on what you've got at home. We used to take cartons of milk and pour out about a glass or so and then stick them in the freezer, and we kept milk in the freezer so that if we couldn't get milk or other things, we would have stuff that would get us by until the supplies became available again. And you know, that didn't used to be considered prepping or anything like that. That used to be considered normal life. I actually saw somebody that I know posted on her Instagram account that Facebook warning that's been going around, and people have shared screenshots of this, and it says, "Are you concerned that someone you know may be becoming too prepared?" Now that sounds absolutely crazy, and there's a lot of people who have said that that little warning, that screenshot of a warning was actually fake. I'm here to tell you it's not fake, because I know someone personally who saw it on my own page, because of course I must be dangerous. Being prepared for hard times is not, it's not extremist. It's normal life for anybody who's been paying attention to the world, like ever. Now, that said, I've had several people ask me about advice as far as what I would stock my pantry with, or what I would suggest that people keep in their pantry. Now, I'm going to just say right off the bat, I'm not an expert. I am not an expert at any of that. All I can tell you is what I do personally, and you can just take my information as far as what I do, maybe tweak it to what suits your needs, or maybe use that as inspiration and do what you feel is the right thing for your family. So in my situation in particular, what I do is I just look at the things that my family eats. What do we consume normally anyways? And those things that we normally are going to eat, I just make sure I've got extra of. You know, I make sure I've got some flour and sugar and all of the staple things that you would normally have in your pantry. I just make sure that I've got some to last a little bit, so that if something happens, if there's a natural disaster and the power's knocked out for a week and the stores can't open, do I have stuff to get by on? If there's a medical emergency and you can't leave your house, or your husband loses his job because he doesn't want to consent to something he doesn't believe in, it is important to have something as a backup. And so I just look at what I would ordinarily have, and I make sure I have those things to last for a little while. Now, I will say that I store all of my goods, anything that's dry goods, anything that comes in a bag, or any sort of packaging that isn't really durable, I take it out of that packaging and I put it in something more solid. For instance, flour usually comes in a bag, bread flour, you know, all-purpose flour, what have you. If you are wanting to store some up to just have some for a rainy day, then what I would recommend is sticking it in a freezer for a couple days, because, and I know this sounds gross, but this is just real life, sometimes there's little bugs that get into things, whether it's in the folds of the bag or what have you. But if you stick it in the freezer, leave it in there for a few days, it's going to kill anything that could potentially be in there. And then I would take it out of those bags and put it into something solid. I like to use food grade buckets. I have quite a few of those, and I just take some masking tape, painter's tape, and I write on that what's in those buckets. I put a label on the front of the bucket and I put a label on the lid. That way if I'm looking down or if I'm looking from the front, I know right off the bat what's in those buckets. Now, food grade buckets are made out of a plastic that's BPA free. It's completely safe for storing food in. It used to be that containers like that were hard to come by, but nowadays you can find food safe buckets all over the place. I have seen them at Lowe's, I've seen them at Home Depot, and they're usually only just a couple of bucks. But another option for getting very inexpensive food grade buckets is check your local bakeries. I know I've seen them at Walmart in the past, in the bakery section. Well, they're from the bakery section, but I've seen them over by the paints. I have seen them at my local Mennonite bakery. They sell the buckets there, because when they get in their frosting to put on all of their baked goods, the frostings and glazes usually come in great big buckets, food safe buckets. And the great thing about those is, depending upon the store that you would get them from, sometimes they're either free or really inexpensive. I think the ones that I saw at the Mennonite bakery were like $1 or something like that. They were super cheap. And they're not round, they're rectangle. So when you are storing them in your pantry, you can actually store in a few more, because you don't have that dead space where you would have in between the round buckets, which is pretty nice. So that's a great option. If it's smaller quantities, I use mason jars. I've got great big half-gallon mason jars, just all different sizes. I just like to make sure that I'm storing things in containers that are not going to get a hole torn in them or anything like that. And I also rotate my products. I actually created a rack that holds all of my cans so that I can rotate them through. But when you bring home some new ones, put it in the back of the shelf. That way the older things are in the front and you'll use those first. And just keep a rotation. That way you don't have to worry about something getting shoved into the back and getting forgotten, and then you come across it and it's been expired for 4 years or something like that. So like I said, what I do is I just keep a little bit extra of the things that I'm going to have, that I'm going to use anyways, and I just make sure that I've got some to last me a little bit in case I can't go to the store and purchase things for whatever reason. Now, something else that I do, and this isn't something that you have to do, but I like doing this, is I will have a few other things in addition to my regular items. I will purchase some things and have them set aside, items that I don't normally use but might come in handy if the need arises, like some canned soups or fruits, or maybe mixes that you just need water. Items that I don't, again, use all the time, but if we're in a situation and I can't go to the store, having a few things like that on hand, I don't need a lot of them, but just having a few on hand, I think is potentially beneficial. Now, besides food, there is something else that I think is very important to always have on hand, and that is medical supplies. Now, I don't know about you, but in the past, I can tell you that there was many times where I would go to the first aid kit because I needed something, and I would find myself completely out of things, or I would go into the medicine cabinet to pull something out and realize something had expired a long time ago. And so I just kind of got into a routine of every few months or so, I go through all of my first aid stuff, all of my supplies. I check all of the over-the-counter medications. I look to make sure everything is stocked up, make sure nothing is expired or anything like that. And I just maintain it. I make sure we've always got those things on hand, because again, if there's a situation, if there's an emergency and I can't go to the store, I'm gonna need these things. You know, having bandages and butterfly strips and all of these things on hand, it's really important. And I will tell you, with all of these supply chain issues that we have been having, I actually went through a couple weeks ago and looked at everything in there. The band-aids, the bandages, the medical tape, all of those things. You would be shocked to see how many of those things are made in a country that is not our ally. Yeah. So in addition to the pantry, I highly suggest you make sure you have a stocked first aid kit, medicine cabinet, and all of that. And I know that that can be pricey, but if you look at that as an initial investment and then just replace things as you need to, then it's not so bad. Or at least, you know, make a list of all the things that you need, and just when you go to the grocery store, get a couple of things every single time you go. And that way you can kind of build up your supply of the items that you might need in case of emergency, in case you need to care for a family member and deal with a, you know, minor wound or something like that. Because you just never know. So like I said, I'm not an expert in any of that, but those are the kind of things that I do, and hopefully you can kind of take that and run and, you know, figure out a method that would work best for you, because I think it is always wise to be prepared for any sort of situation that you might need to be able to handle yourself. And before I wrap this up, I mentioned in one of my recent videos this week about having my content over on Rumble, and I have started uploading my videos to Rumble in addition to YouTube. That way, if something ever happens to my channel for whatever reason, I can still be found over there. So I've kind of started doing that as a little bit of a backup. I don't have anywhere near all of my videos. I've just been putting up my recent videos. That way they're kind of in the two locations. And I don't always upload them on the same day. I do upload them to YouTube first, and then I'll maybe put them on Rumble the next day or something like that. We have really slow internet where we live, and so uploading videos takes time. And so I have to kind of work that in when I can. You can also find me on MeWe, and I recently started using Telegram, which I really like, and I'm on a lot of the alternative social media platforms, but I don't necessarily use them a lot. But MeWe and Telegram are my kind of new go-to ones, in addition to Instagram and Facebook. So all right, that is it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me here. Like I said, I'm not an expert at any of this stuff, but I'm happy to share what I do, and hopefully that inspires you guys to see what maybe you're able to do. in your own lives, in your own homes. So thanks for hanging out with me here again at A Good Life Farm. My name is Constance, and I will talk to y'all next time.